Good morning. When I first heard that song on the radio a couple of years ago, I didn't really like it that much. It took me a while to get used to the inflections of his voice, but it grew to become one of my favorite songs as I continued to listen to it. And I feel it's very appropriate for the message that I want to share today. So Pastor Mike yesterday sent out an email that said we had completed our series on A Season for Growth. But then I came up with a message that just happened to continue the series on A Season for Growth anyway. So this is the final message in this series. And my topic today is the beauty in our challenges. And it may seem a little bit of a idiosyncrasy or a dichotomy, or like those words shouldn't be in the same sentence together, but they do belong in the same sentence together. I actually want to start off with a Bible quote before I go any further, and I think this is a really beautiful one. This is from James chapter 1, verses 2 through 5. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. So consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. This was just so clear to me this week. Many of you know that exactly 1 week ago, on Sunday morning, my sister gave birth to her first child, little boy named Mateo. And although I have 4 children of my own, I've never actually been at somebody else's birth before, or been through them on their journey of labor and delivery. And it was really such an honor for me, but it was so touching, because it's never easy. I will say labor and delivery is never easy, but it was not a simple, easy one. My sister, we could tell she was going into labor on Friday evening, and then all night long she couldn't sleep. She was laboring, and then that morning she was getting tired, but she was like, okay, I think I'm ready to go to the birth center now. We're like, all right, let's go do this, And we get there and everything kind of slows down, and they're like, actually, you need to go back home. And she was, no, because that felt like the next step where you're almost there. But she had to go back home, and the contractions they were strong ones. And they're consistent, but they just weren't close together like what they were wanting to see. And so all through Saturday and all through Saturday night, 35 hours of painful contractions and labor, which I counted it up, and it's actually more hours of active labor than all of mine put together. So Felicia, she was so exhausted. I'm like, I don't have any room to talk. You do whatever you need to do, because it's amazing that you're here and you're doing this. But after everything, she was able to give birth to Mateo, and it was we all just burst into tears. The second he came out, my mom and myself and my sister and her husband would just all burst into tears. And now she's doing very well. From that point, everything has gotten better. She's doing very well. Baby's doing very well. But I had a conversation with her a day or two afterwards, and she was saying, that time on STF, that missions program that I did after high school and that she did after high school, she was like, that I never knew what kind of preparation that was for this. And then it reminded me, I had the same thought after giving birth to my twins. I was so grateful for my time on my missions program, because it was a time when we were consistently and constantly getting put into uncomfortable situations, or we had to go up to people and talk to them, and we got rejected by people, but we had a goal, and we were always trying to reach our goal. So even if we didn't feel like going up to the next person or knocking on the next door, we did it anyway. And my sister was saying, sometimes we wanted to just like go hide in a bathroom and sit on a toilet for a couple hours to avoid having to go to the next place. But if I did that, I actually felt worse than if I had just done it. And having that experience of perseverance, of doing the things that you don't necessarily want to do, but that you know, but that your original mind wants to do, right? That I feel called to do, even though my body doesn't want to do it, even though my emotions don't want to do it. But developing this kind of strength of character and perseverance, she was like, that helped me get through all of those hours of contractions, because I had a goal, a very important goal. And but I at times I didn't know if I had the strength to get there. So the testing of our faith and the testing of our character and stretching that muscle, because when you grow a muscle, it hurts because you actually tear it a little bit before it comes back stronger. But the growing of that muscle prepares us to find victory in greater and better situations in our life later on. Our life is a journey which is just full of bumps and mountains to climb. And in the song, it says, sometimes I'm on the top of the mountain. We know what that feels like, and it's awesome, but I can't take all the credit myself. I have to lift my eyes to God who set me there. But sometimes I'm walking through the valley, and the valley's a dark and shadowy place. But I'll still lift my eyes because God sees me there. I'm not alone. And on this road, the roads these days are mostly paved, and there's a few potholes here and there, but they're mostly smooth. But most of history, roads have been very bumpy. Lots of ditches and cracks and ways you have to go around to be able to keep going. And the first time that we hit a bump on the road is probably when you're 6 or 7. Maybe your brother or sister made you upset. Your mom didn't let you have the thing that you wanted to have. This is like the little bumps in the road that we start to hit when we're growing up. And the first time we hit a bump, then sometimes it can seem almost impossible to deal with. I think that's why children have tantrums and meltdowns, because they don't have the tools yet to know how to rationalize or how to communicate, how to work out a relationship. They seem insurmountable and very intimidating and hard to go over. And it can be scary to deal with. But once you get over that, and then you face another one that's the same size, it's not fun, but you're like, okay, I know how to get over this one. There's less fear and unknown. You have the confidence to do it and do it again. And as we go on, as we get older in our life, we hit middle school, we hit high school, we get married. It's like there's always a new bump, right? And it's always a little bit bigger than the last one. But this made me think a lot of this concepts that I learned in this book called The Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. Some of you may know him. But he talks about the level of person that we are and the levels of challenges that we face and kind of what kind of attitude we needed to develop as we face challenges. So I just wanted to share this excerpt from this book to kind of illustrate this point. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, imagine you are a person with a level 2 strength of character and attitude, looking at a level 5 problem or level 5 bump in the road. Would this problem appear to be big or little? It would be big, right? From a level 2 perspective, a level 5 problem would seem like a big problem. But now imagine you've grown yourself and become a level 8 person. Would the same level 5 problem be a big problem or a little problem? Magically, the identical problem is now a little problem. Finally, imagine you've really worked hard on yourself and become a level 10 person. Now, is this same level 5 problem a big problem or a little problem? The answer is that it's no problem. It doesn't even register in your brain as a problem. There's no negative energy around it. It's just a normal occurrence to handle, like brushing your teeth or getting dressed. So, the process of becoming a level 10 person, though, means that you have gone over all the level 1, level 2, level 3, level 5, level 8 problems, level 9 and 10 problems, and you've become victorious over all of them. And then it's like you have a goal, you know what you want, and you don't even care what's in the way on the way there because you know you can do it. I really see this attitude. I like to think of myself as a strong, determined person, and that I've overcome a lot of challenges in my life. I can't say I'm a level 10 person. But I look at people like Jesus, and I look at people like our true parents, and they're like the exuberant example of what a level 10 person is. This is a quote from Reverend Moon, our founder, true father. You have inner and outer struggles. You must win the inner struggle. Whenever there are enemies coming against you, you must be able to win over them by being patient and serving them. Again, I must say that the secret of Jesus' success in God's sight is that he was ever patient and he was sacrificial for humanity. Even praying in Gethsemane, Jesus said, "If it be possible, let this cup pass from me, but not as I will, but as thou wilt." That's the point. If he kept saying, "Let this cup pass from me, I will not receive this cup, I will have nothing to do with it," he could have been a failure. But his idea was, not as I will, but as God wills. That's what makes Jesus a sacred person. Even at the moment of death, he blessed his enemy. Be ready to utilize the moment of difficulty to train yourself to win over evil. So this is where the beauty of challenges comes in, and it has to do with your attitude towards them, because there's usually nothing beautiful about an argument with your spouse. There's nothing beautiful about getting fired from your job. There's nothing, in that moment, there's not beauty. But in our attitude, we can see it as an opportunity to develop that spirit of perseverance to overcome. So he says there are 2 secrets. 1, be patient. And the other, be sacrificial in service to others. With these 2 ingredients, you will be a success. Unhappy and miserable things are not necessarily going to lead you to unhappiness and misery. If you turn them the other way around, you can bring victory and happiness. So there's a really important key in this quote. We actually already talked to him about patience in our series, because just like my children planting seeds in their pots, and even myself, I put seeds in the ground and I water them, I just stare at it for like 5 minutes, because I just am anticipating what's going to come, and I want to see it. And my kid and Annalise just really had a hard time. Like the next morning, where's my flower? They're actually sprouting now, so there's something rewarding there. But it absolutely takes time. It cannot just make things appear overnight. It takes time. We have to have patience with ourselves. We have to have patience with others. But we did already talk about that. The other kind of secret is that I can't be focused only on myself when I'm facing a challenge or a difficulty. Because if I'm only focused on myself, then all I can think about is how hard this is, how I don't want to be in this situation, how anywhere else would be better than where I'm at right now, right? How unfair it is. And it actually seems harder and harder than the situation might actually, in reality, be. If I'm only thinking of myself, then there's not much reason actually to overcome the challenge. Why not just avoid it? Why not just turn around, go the other way? And many, many people in the world do this because it's not fun. And unless we have a reason to go over it, something that's calling us to the other side of it, then there's no reason to stretch that muscle so that it breaks a little bit. And sometimes there are times when we can't just avoid challenges, and it just happens anyway. But if I'm only thinking about how hard it is for me, then it's just suffering. There's no beauty to find there. It's just suffering. But the greater my ability is to see past myself in the midst of a difficulty, then the more power I have to overcome it. I feel like the first step of this is to think about my future. So like if you're in college and it's like months and months of late nights and studying and exams and you have to make money while you're doing it. It's hard, it's not fun. But if I know, okay, out of this I'm gonna get a degree, out of this I'm gonna be able to have financial stability, then that's how most people get through it, right? Because they know that there's a reward at the end of it. It can take your focus off of the situation in a difficult moment. But I think that we can actually have more power the bigger our mindset is and the further we see ahead and the more people and God that we include in our vision. I was thinking back, and I've shared this before, but when my sister and I did our MR 340, Missouri River 340 miles, paddling from Kansas City to St. Louis, and it was this intense ultra-marathon kayak race. Took us like 3 days with like 3 hours of sleep, and we had prepared for this. We had trained, we had worked out. But, by the end of the second day, we have a whole night to go through and a whole other day of paddling. It was hot. It was like 85, 90 degrees. The river was low that year, so it was moving so slow. People say, if you just stay in the boat, you'll get there. The river will take you down there. But the river wasn't going anywhere, so we had to keep paddling. And we never wanted to voice it out loud to each other, like, do you think we can actually do this? Because we just knew that if we said it out loud, then maybe it would make it possible that we couldn't do it. But both of us in our minds were thinking, I don't know if we can do this. Why on earth did we ever voluntarily sign up for this and pay money to do this? I really believe the only reason that we finished it that first year is because we had so many people rooting us on and cheering for us and had donated to help us to get a boat and pay for our registration fees, and were waiting for us at the finish line. We had friends waiting for us with a hot breakfast, the finish line. And I 100% knew that if those people were not part of this picture, there was no reason for me to continue. Not even for my own honor or bragging rights or whatever. That wasn't worth it anymore. Only because I had so many people who believed in me, and I wanted to make proud and thank for making it possible. And that's just it's kind of an extreme example, but it's just a simple example. I think it's really for that way in all the situations in our life. If Mike and I are having a difficulty in our relationship, it's so much easier to just avoid that topic of conversation. But I know that it will benefit our future happiness, and I know it will benefit our children's future happiness if we're united, if we're on the same page, if we're working together on all fronts, and not just avoiding the things that we don't want to talk about. And when I see examples like Jesus and our true parents, it wasn't about them at all. And Jesus said, not as I will, but as thou wilt. And so many people talk about Jesus' death on the cross as kind of his defining moment, and that it showed his humanity when he asked God, let this bitter cup pass from me. A lot of people see that as it's showing Jesus' humanity, that he doesn't want to die. But actually, there are so many people in this world who are willing to die for a noble cause and don't even think twice about it. Most parents would gladly, willingly, in an instant lay down their life for their children. There are patriots who would gladly give their life for the freedom of their country. There are many saints who've been martyred, and they did it without resent. They just gave themselves for the sake of God. So I don't think that actually that was Jesus' motivation for asking God to let this cup pass from him. I think it's because Jesus wanted so badly to be able to fulfill God's will on earth at that time, to save his brothers and sisters, to save his friends, to save his enemies. And he didn't want that to get delayed. Because with that, Jesus is like, I could overcome anything. I could overcome anything for you. For you, God. Because that was his big mind. He was a level 10, level 100 person. But if that won't work, then God, whatever you ask of me, I can do. And so I don't think it was weakness. I think it was his strong desire to do whatever it took to show God that he was his son, to save this world. And going to the cross ended up being that thing. But he did it willingly. And I don't think that it was painful. Yes, struggle is painful. I'm sure it was the most unpleasant experience, but I don't think that he resented it. I don't think that he regretted it. I think that he did it with a heart that there was beauty in it for God. So let me go back to this quote here, that unhappy and miserable things are not necessarily going to lead you to unhappiness and misery. If you can turn them the other way around, you can bring victory and happiness. And back to my first quote. Sorry, I have so many. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. So I'm going to ask you to look at the challenges in your past, but especially the challenges that you might be facing today. Because it's not so much about what the actual difficulty is, and I know that they vary widely. So I can't speak to the specific situation in your life. They're all infinitely different. They're all infinitely challenging in their own ways. But it's not so much about what that challenge is as it is about what kind of attitude do we have towards it, and what purpose do we have on the other side of it that is going to call us over that challenge, that is going to grow our level from a 5 to a 6, from a 7 to an 8. Actually, life gets a lot more exciting and fun. I feel like the more you level up, then the less these bumps and challenges are seen as like suffering and, oh, I wish I didn't have to go through this. But it's like, all right, there's something exciting for me waiting on the other side of this, so I can't wait to get there. Let's do this, there's a really awesome speech by Reverend Moon called Challenge and Victory, and it talks about this attitude of like, do the droplets of water, if they had consciousness, do they hesitate to go down the waterfall? They don't hesitate. They plunge over the waterfall because they're going to the heart of the ocean. That's their ultimate destination. And in similar ways, our ultimate destination is the heart of God. God isn't calling us to lead us on like a goose chase, right? He's not just pulling us around in circles. That's not what God is doing with our life. God is calling us towards a purpose. God is calling us closer to Him. And if we can accept that is where I'm going, then we shouldn't hesitate to move forward on the path. Okay, sorry, I have to go back through all these again. To my last quote from the Bible, and that quote is Isaiah 41:13. For I am the Lord your God, who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear, I will help you. So nobody can walk our path for us, unfortunately. Actually, it's fortunately, because there's beauty in that. Nobody can walk our path for us, but we don't walk it alone. Right? God is the God of the hills and the valleys. And I am not alone. It can feel like we're alone because we might be the one that has to overcome that challenge. Might feel like nobody else understands. But I think God is always right here. If we just open that door, his hand is reached out, but we got to grab it. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. We're like that horse. God is leading us to fresh water. God is ready with his hand out for us to hold. And if we accept that, we take it, then we don't need to fear. Because we can trust God's purpose for us. We can trust God's ultimate destination for us. It doesn't change for anybody. There's nobody that God gives up on and says, all right, that's it. You're too much trouble. Do not fear, I will help you. So, that is the last message in this series. But there is beauty in challenges if we choose to see it that way. So please join me in prayer. Heavenly Parent, good morning. Thank you so much for a beautiful new day and week. Thank you for each and every person who is here today. God, they are so precious to you. And I pray that each person can feel your radiant love for them, and that you are calling each one of us closer to your heart. And that whatever part of the path that we're on right now, whether we're on top of the mountain or whether we're in the lowest of valleys, Heavenly Parent, we know that you are with us. We know that you're walking with us. And I pray that we can see beyond my own situation right now and see what hopes you have for us, what dreams you have for us, and how by overcoming the challenge we can become a person who can help the person behind us to overcome that challenge. We can become a source of inspiration to other people who might be having a difficulty getting over the bump. And we can also inspire you, God. I truly believe that when you see us overcome something that maybe we've never overcome before, we didn't know we had the strength to do, but we do it anyway, God, you are so proud of us and you are so inspired. Thank you so much for the wonderful examples that you've given us in our life. We want to look to them. We want to look to Jesus. We want to look to our true parents. We want to look to the many examples of patriots and saints and sages. And whether it's even our own parents or our own role models, I believe you're trying to teach us through all of them, God. So thank you so much for your patience with us as we go through our own growth period. We know you're waiting for us, you're encouraging us, and you're holding our hand. We want to offer this time to you, this message, this Sunday, and begin our week with you. And I offer this prayer in my name, Michael and Adonia Henschik, blessed and family. Amen and adieu. Thank you.